Everything we have seen so far on this channel has been in and around the northeastern United States. But that is just a small portion of the North American continent. Further west is a land of endless fields known as the Midwest. It spans over 1,000 miles. In the western part of it, the ground becomes dry, and in Colorado, the fields disappear to make way for the Rocky Mountains, the third tallest mountain range on Earth. This part of it is known as the Front Range, and its mountains are snow-capped, even though it is June. Further west, we arrive in a desert that has a high elevation. It is known as the Colorado Plateau. Here, there are many canyons and even plateaus on top of the plateau. In Utah, we arrive at the Great Basin, the second largest desert in North America. It is 200,000 square miles and encompasses most of the state of Nevada. In higher elevations, it is less dry, allowing for subalpine forests. A lot of this desert's water is in salt lakes, and yes, those are volcanoes. One of the main factors that causes this desert to form is the Sierra Nevada Mountains, the tallest mountain range in the continental United States. They are so tall that they prevent moisture from the Pacific Ocean from entering the Great Basin. The mountains disappear, and we arrive in the Central Valley, a land of fertile fields, only to be met by California's southern coast ranges, and then large human settlements. And then we reach the Pacific, the largest ocean on planet Earth. This part of it is a biodiversity hotspot, and California is the most biodiverse US state. When those two worlds collide, it creates a strange new world. This is the California coast. We will begin our journey on a San Francisco beach, home to many common ravens. These intelligent birds have discovered that beaches are a good source of food because of all of the washed up sea creatures. And in populated areas like this one, they have lost their fear of humans. Moving towards the ocean, we can see that it is low tide, and walking in the intertidal zone is a striped shore crab. It is semi-terrestrial, but its gills must remain moist. Also, it does not like being filmed, but that is a better fate than being devoured by western gulls. This species terrorizes crabs from Baja California to British Columbia. They are also joined by an unusual looking gull known as a Heermann's gull. They were named after Adolphus Lewis Heermann, who was a doctor and naturalist who explored the western United States and described many species that were new to science in the 19th century. But these gulls actually have a backwards migration, where they spend the spring breeding in western Mexico, and then migrate north to British Columbia to spend the fall and early winter. Over here is a black oyster catcher, one of North America's 2 oyster catcher species, the other being the American oyster catcher, which we saw in previous videos. Like them, they also eat mainly bivalve mollusks. However, this species can only be found on the Pacific coast, no further south than Baja California. Even further out is a snowy egret, whose species can be found throughout the Americas. Not far away from the beach is a rocky island full of brown pelicans. Hiding amongst them is a Brandt's cormorant. It is named after a German zoologist who described it based on a specimen taken by Russian explorers in the 1800s. The most iconic feature of this species is its blue throat pouch. On the beach, there is also a rocky cliff with mussels and shore crabs living in it, along with a pigeon guillemot pair. They nest in rocky cliffs like this one, above the high tide line. Males often circle around their partner while vocalizing. Further north in Balena's lagoon, there is a great egret along with a great blue heron, and a smaller wader known as a black-crowned night heron. This is a nocturnal bird that usually hunts at night to avoid competition from other herons. And when they eat anything that can fit in their beak. Also, for some reason, this one is awake during the day. Where the lagoon enters the Pacific Ocean, there is another kind of bird. Long-billed curlews. They are the largest shorebird in North America. Their unbelievably long beaks are used to help them reach burrowing prey. With a beak that is over half the length of their body, it is no surprise that they also possess the longest beak of any North American shorebird. However, their relative, the far eastern curlew of Asia and Oceania, has an even longer beak and larger size. One of the most common marine animals on this beach is a kind of echinoderm known as an eccentric sand dollar. This creature is covered in little spines that help it move. Luckily, the sand dollar is too big for this marbled godwit to eat. Instead, it is probing for smaller invertebrates in the wet sand at the edge of the beach. This one is not breeding this year, so it is spending the summer at its wintering location. Marbled godwits mainly breed in the Great Plains, but also parts of Ontario and Alaska. Back in Balena's lagoon, there are more brown pelicans. Here in the Pacific, they can be found from Peru to Washington. And in the Atlantic, the range spans from French Guiana to New Jersey. They are also joined by a large group of harbor seals resting on a tidal flat. You may notice that fog is forming, and that is because warm air from the continent is contacting cold coastal water. Harbor seals have to spend a lot of their time on land to maintain their body temperature after swimming in the cold water. It must be relaxing laying on this beach, but it is kind of crowded. Also, they get scared easily, so it is best to stay at least 300 feet away. Tragedy has struck for this poor mule deer. During this low tide, it has ventured too far out and is now stuck in the mud. There were some people with a kayak that looked like they wanted to help it, so maybe the buck did survive. Even further north is Point Reyes National Seashore. It is home to coastal grasslands, and therefore mule deer. They get their name from their large ears, which resemble those of a mule. They are larger than white-tailed deer and live in western North America, from Alaska to Mexico. These ones belong to a subspecies known as Colombian black-tailed deer. They can be found near the coast from California to British Columbia. And here is a buck with giant antlers that is safely on land. He is feeding on some of the many plant species that can be found here. It is estimated that Point Reyes is home to over 900 plant species, some of which are endemic, meaning they are found nowhere else on Earth. And that is not including mosses and liverworts. Below this northern harrier is another predator, a coyote. This little wolf species can be found in every US state, except for Hawaii. However, it was not always like this. They used to only live in the middle of North America. In the 20th century, as large predators were eradicated and habitats fragmented, coyotes were able to expand in all directions. Meanwhile, a white-crowned sparrow just fed its child. Many migrate to tundras to breed, but the ones here stay year-round. On a flower is a yellow-faced bumblebee, another species unique to North America's Pacific coast. They are one of the most common bee species in this area, and this is a succulent native to Northern California and Southern Oregon. On a hill are the largest deer in Point Reyes, Tule elk. They are the smallest and rarest elk subspecies in North America, with a population of around 5,700. This elk subspecies is also adapted to semi-arid environments and is endemic to California. Because of overhunting and increased settlement, they almost went extinct. At one point, it is estimated that there were only 2 to 4 individuals left. Long story short, they only survived in one ranch, and then were relocated to several different areas, with a lot of death in the process. In 1978, they were reintroduced to Tamales Point in Point Reyes. As the population there expanded, some elk were relocated to other parts of this peninsula. In 2024, the fence that was confining the elk in Tamales Point was taken down. Here in North America, there are 3 other living elk subspecies, and 2 extinct ones. The reason why I say in North America is because elk are also native to East Asia, where there are 4 more subspecies. Now, let's move back to the ocean, where of course there will be a lot of life, including brown pelicans, a female surf scoter, and red-throated loons. Point Reyes looks the way it does because it is a geologically active part of the Pacific Plate. These iconic cliffs are formed because of rocks being uplifted and exposed to erosion. Near the end of the peninsula are 4 northern elephant seals. 3 of them are females, or possibly juvenile males. And this one is definitely a male, based on his large size and trunk. Did you hear that? That one just made a call, and now it is putting sand on its back. Him and his friend are probably doing it to help keep them cool, due to their thick layer of blubber, which causes them to get hot easily. Unfortunately, these giants were once hunted for their blubber, which almost caused them to go extinct. In 1910, their population was less than 1,000. Over a decade later, the Mexican and US government banned hunting for them, and today they have a population of over 200,000. Also, this one is not crying. That is just a substance used to protect its eye. Elephant seals spend 80% of their life out at sea and can hold their breath for over 100 minutes, which is longer than any other non-cetacean mammal. Adult males can get up to 13 feet long and can weigh up to 5,000 pounds. They are the second largest seal in the world after their relative, the southern elephant seal of the Antarctic. The seals are also sharing this beach with a male surf scoter and a black oyster catcher. Despite their name, they rarely eat oysters and instead eat things like mussels and even limpets and chitons. At the end of the peninsula are some more harbor seals. Thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something new. Subscribe if you haven't already, and have a great day.